maybe a little differently. Let's see if there it goes. I think it is going now. All right, welcome to Technology and Challenges in Life as we continue going around. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to It's Time to Excel, where we're helping you to inspire and ignite the possibilities so that you too can excel in 2021. So looking at today's topic and kind of looking around some tips and tricks around how can we really get our hands around some finances that may be a little overwhelming at times. And I thought what I would do is I would share today, I actually had an opportunity to speak to one of my networking groups, and we were talking about becoming the CFO of your business. Now, what is CFO? CFO is the Chief Financial Officer. And what does that mean? That's a nice corporate terminology here, but not really. If you're running a business, one of the hats as the entrepreneur that you get to wear is your CFO. Yes, you get lots of hats and your head's probably exploding with the number of hats that are required to run and operate a business, but that's okay. We're going to focus on just that one little hat today. And that's our Chief Financial Officer hat. So what in the world does that mean? Well, one of the things that we absolutely need to do is we need to make sure we have a handle on our finances. We need to figure out what we can do, how we can make sure that there's some systems in place. What can we do? What is the best way to streamline it? I mean, there's 1,001 questions here, but let's just focus on a couple of things. And some of the things, especially, folks have been wrapping up 2020 taxes. Of course, everything's due. A couple days ago was if you were a corporation, those tax returns were due like a couple days ago, but unless you had an extension. And of course, for the rest that are just small business and they're sole proprietors or LLCs operating as sole proprietors, that's all due by April 15th, which is not that far away. And one thing that has been coming out consistently across a lot of my clients, even a lot of folks that I have worked with in the past, is things got a little out of control last year. And all of a sudden they're scrambling like loony bins, trying to get all of their information in place. And as the CFO of your business, this is what we're going to focus on. How can we take that chaos out of there? What steps can we put in place, or what steps can we go towards, or what can I do differently this year? So as the Chief Financial Officer of your business, I thought I would share one of the tips that has worked really well for me and as we've been kind of going through. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attempt to do something even different than I typically do. And that is I'm going to attempt to share my screen here and see if we cannot actually have the opportunity to go through a slideshow presentation that I had the opportunity to share with a group that I was networking with. And that is actually going to be my CFO 101, where I had a tip that I wanted to share with folks. So I'm going to assume that you guys can possibly see this, and this makes this, and there it is. Hallelujah, it's working. I'm figuring things out as we are going. And that's half the fun of being the entrepreneur, is you never know exactly what's around the corner or what little obstacle might be in your way. And part of it is learning to deal with the chaos. Part of it is learning to roll through it and just kind of roll as things are moving forward. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. And I've got an opportunity. In fact, I'm going to bump this out of here so that's not getting in our way. And I really want to share with you a little bit of becoming the CFO of your business. And how can you do that so that you can build a strong financial foundation? End up finding as things are going on is there's so many choices out there. I could pick this choice, that choice over here. What should I do? You're like whack-a-mole. But the bottom line is this. You have got to figure out some type of accounting, whether it's a software or system. I'm going to use system in this case. You need to have some type of accounting system in place to track your money. You've got to know what revenue is coming in, what revenue is going out, and you need to know exactly what is going on. So how do you do that? How do you do that? Oh, there's all kinds of options. And you're right. They can be as simple as pen and paper. Absolutely. And if that works for you, great. But as a business owner, that might be a little bit time consuming to be able to do that. But you know what? If that's what works, go for it. Another one that, of course, you can do is spreadsheets. These are also a great option where you have Microsoft Excel, you even have Google Sheets. Both pros and cons, both different things as we're going, but yeah, absolutely. You can use spreadsheets to go ahead and do that as well. And of course, there's always software. There's software such as QuickBooks and a boatload of other softwares out there. I do specialize in training for QuickBooks Online, so that is probably the one I'm going to kind of lean towards. I do a lot of training in Microsoft Excel, so we're just going to use that. That is not the only choice, but it is at least an option. So whether it's pen and paper, whether it's a spreadsheet type system, or whether it is a software type system, you do have options out there, and sometimes they can be overwhelming. Take a step back and pick one. We've got to start where you're at and get started, but we've got to get a system in place. That is the most important thing, is getting that system in place. So once you get it in place, now what? The reason you have to do this is you need these reports. Yes, they seem overwhelming. Yes, they seem crazy at times. But without the reports, you have no idea what's going on. You also don't know if you're heading towards your goals. You also have no idea if you're profitable or not. These questions are highly important, and they're ones that you can only answer if you have that accounting tracking system in place. And QuickBooks Online or software such as that is a great opportunity to be able to get these reports at your fingertips, even right from your phone in real time. And that's one of the benefits of using a software program, is it's much more real time, and it allows you to be able to have this information at your fingertips. So you're making better decisions. You're making better choices because you have solid information in front of you. But that's the main reason why you need to absolutely get a system in place for accounting and tracking your numbers. But this is one of the ones that sometimes gets a little lost. And what is that report that I'm referring to? That's a budget. And I love Dave Ramsey's quote where it says, "A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went." He says it so well, and this is what he teaches a lot in his financial peace section, and that is what a budget does for your business as well. You are actually starting to tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Because without a budget, it's really tough to achieve your financial goals. It may even be really tough to have a savings put back, and it may even be tougher to make sure you have a consistent paycheck put back. But a budget is a tool to help alleviate these. Without a budget, it's often very difficult to navigate unexpected expenses. And for anybody that's talked to me before, you know that I'm like, okay, unexpected expenses are not unexpected. They're simply inevitable. And what ends up happening if all these unexpected things are coming about and you're not planning for it and you're not having something in place to kind of counteract some of it in business, all of a sudden you're losing financial control. Your debt's becoming out of control. And when it's out of control, you're going to be in trouble. And that's not where we want you to be, because we want you to excel. We want you to be able to be moving forward and towards the goals that are there. One of the things that's also kind of taught is the zero-based budget thought. And many of you may have heard this terminology coming through. Dave Ramsey also teaches this one, as well as what does that mean? In a nutshell, this is all it means. For every revenue that comes in, whatever expenses are going to go out, the bottom line is zero. That's all it means. So that means for every dollar that's coming into the system, you are going to tell those dollars exactly where they're going to go. And you do this ahead of time. Novel concept. So what you're doing with your budget is you're doing it ahead of time. And since you're ahead of time, you've already got this all out. You know that for every dollar that comes in, you have allocated it out. An allocation simply means you've put it in its little bucket. You have put it in its little envelope. You have put it in its little spot. So that the bottom line is, when you're done, every single dollar is accounted for. And by running your business with a zero-based budget, you are making sure that you are accounting for all the dollars coming in and out of your business. You're planning for them ahead of time so that you can move towards your goals. And often what I get asked very, very often as I'm talking with folks is they're just not sure where to even start. I always talk about, allocating out, and where do we even begin? There is all kinds of guidelines out there. There's all kinds of choices out there. There's all kinds of percentage splits out there. Take your pick. There are so many, but start somewhere. Reading in some things, Mike Michalowicz, I was reading Profit First, and one of his things, he was kind of talking about some, splits. If you're under $250,000, one of his recommendations is, okay, 50% into your pay, 5% into profits, 15% into taxes, and 30% into your operating expense. Can you do that? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, but at least now you have a goal. And often the biggest and the most important thing is these are just guidelines. It's just somewhere to start. That's it. It's a place to begin and work towards a goal. We got to start where we're at and move forward, and that's the most important thing. So you may not be able to get there. You can have, these are other just numbers. It doesn't matter. You can do 50% to operating expense, 30% to salary. You get the idea. The bottom line is you just got to get to 100%. Start where you're at. Just incorporate the categories of operating expenses, your salary. Even if you start start with 1% into profit. Start somewhere. Disciplining yourself to make sure you're putting some profits back. And you do it up front, and that's the key. And make sure you put your taxes back. And then I do encourage, put back into the savings and those unexpected, plan for them. Plan for them. And all this is just a goal. Simply suggestions, simply start where you're at, and simply start to move forward. That's the main thing. That is the main criteria. So as I'm talking with folks, all of a sudden, numbers start showing up. You're, okay, well, I want 10,000 rather than 50%. And you're looking at these numbers, and before long, you have these numbers all over the place. 5,000, 3,000, 1,000, I don't know, monthly. And all of a sudden, everybody's all, they become overwhelming. But here's the cool thing. It doesn't have to be. Knock that out of the way. Just take a step back. As an entrepreneur, as a CFO, sometimes you just got to wipe the plate clean. You just got to start where you're at and begin to move forward, one step at a time. So instead of letting this thing get completely overwhelmed, instead of letting it go drive you nuts, I'm going to encourage you to do this. I want you to be proactive, not reactive. That's what I want you to do. I want you to be proactive, not reactive. So what do I mean by that? We're going back to that dreaded 4-letter word known as budget. Yes, we are. We're going to be proactive, and we're going to take it even a step further when we're talking about stuff, because we're going to be proactive, not reactive. And I want you to think of it this way. Forget all those crazy numbers. Think of it this way. For every dollar in revenue. Now, once again, these percentages are simply just percentages to get my point across. Just numbers at this point. Take it for what it's worth. But if your percentages are 50% operating, 30% salary, and I don't even have 100 in here, you get the idea. I'm just going to do those top 3 just to have you thinking differently. But for every dollar that comes into your business, I want you to say, okay, for every dollar, I'm going to put 50 cents back in the operating. I'm going to put 30 cents back for the salary. And I'm going to put 1 penny back for the profits. Yes, you can start somewhere and start being proactive even when it comes to profits. Because let me challenge you this one. Have you ever taken a really subtle look at how pennies add up over time? You might be a little surprised, because I will guarantee you, and it's a proven stat, if you really look, pennies will definitely add up. And they add up, in essence, quicker than you think. But you just got to be disciplined to start. So instead of being overwhelmed by the numbers, start where you're at, make a starting point. And here's the cool thing. That dreaded 4-letter word of a budget is simply your plan. It can be adjusted. It can be tweaked. It can be moved. It can be accommodating to where you're at, because you got to start somewhere. You got to get it tracked. You got to get it moving forward. But at a minimum, at least start preparing to have profits, consistent pay, and get your numbers started. And I encourage you, even if it's a penny here and there, those pennies will absolutely add up in time. So I encourage you to do that going forward and be proactive, not reactive. Now, how can you do that? Here's a really quick solution. You got your first account, your first checking account. And it kind of, as you're thinking about it, it's kind of like your envelope system. It's kind of like, so a lot of this is coming in as I'm reading through some of this. Profit first is the mentality that you're putting your profits and you're putting that ahead of things. So how can you do that? What are things? One of the ways you can do that is to have that second account. And maybe that's where you start. And I call him my little golden piggy. And that basically is a concept that is relayed in Profit First. And it's kind of based upon the envelope system that Dave Ramsey talks about. So it's kind of blending all of that. And basically, in a nutshell, all you're doing is you're moving money out of your main operating account and getting it to one that's a little more off limits. So it's not something that you're going to be using all the time, but you are moving those items out of your regular checking account into what I call and lovingly refer to as my little golden piggy. So that when these taxes are due, I just write it out of that account because I've already accounted for it. I've already put back aside some of that money that I need to be dealing with. There are ways to make it easier. So this is one option. Run a couple of accounts and actually make them work with you instead of against you. And of course, this is one of the things that I get asked so often. What is the best system for me? And I have the same answer every time. And very often when I ask this question, they're like, well, it's the one that works. Well, that's fabulous, but here's the kicker. All of them will work 9 times out of 10. Now, are they efficient and effective? Not necessarily. Is there usually always a way to improve? Of course. That's just part of it. As we learn more, as we become more comfortable, there is definitely options out there. So what is the best system? I always have the exact same answer when I talk. The best system for you is simply the one that you're going to use. That's what it boils down to. The best system for you is the one that you are going to use. So, what are you going to use? Which one are you going to use? That's my question to you. So, what are you thinking? Do I have you thinking? Maybe that's part of it. Remember, there is a bunch of options out there. And you can play whack-a-mole all day long. But if you want to excel, which is now your time, you've got to get a system that you are going to use. Because we can design the best system for you, and it can be working because it's the way I work. But if you're not going to use it, the bottom line is it's not going to work. It really isn't. So I encourage you, put the CFO hat on and really take advantage and steps towards what systems that you can put in place. And of course, I specialize in helping entrepreneurs to get the software in place because I'm a firm believer that the software is available to us and most of us have it at our fingertips. But what I have found with the folks that I've worked or the folks that I'm talking to is they're using 20% of it, of what their tool that they already have in their tool belt because they don't know how to use the rest of it. They're not even aware that there's features available. If you've got a tool in your tool belt, I encourage you to use it, but use it fully. Can you learn it all overnight? Of course not. Can you learn it? I'm still learning, and I'm a fairly decent user of even Microsoft Excel. I've used it for over 20, okay, there's too many years. But I use Excel regularly, and there's still features that I don't use. I use QuickBooks Online, and I use a lot of the features, some features that folks didn't even realize were out there. There are so many benefits to utilizing a software. And what I found by taking advantage of that software, such as QuickBooks, I mean, my mileage is tracked right from my phone. All of my transactions are downloaded, so all I got to do is quickly code them. I can build in rules and make everything go a lot more efficient as long as you understand the software. Because your software can be your greatest friend or it can be your worst nightmare. And that's what I found. Too often, the softwares are your worst nightmare because you don't have time to figure it out. So I encourage you, surround yourself with the support that you need. Surround yourself with folks that can assist you and help do that. My focus this year, of course, if you've been hearing me talking this year, has really been focusing on profits because we want to increase the bottom line. We want you to be able to grow and scale your business. The only way you can do that is you've got to get your profits up. So we have got to get those tools and systems in place to do that. Many of you see Hammy here, and you guys are quite familiar with Mr. Hammy as we go. Of course, he's from Money Doesn't Spend Itself, so where did it go? Because he's going to help you build that foundation. And he's got a really cool goal this year. His goal is to help you to turn your Hamiltons into Benjamins. And how do we do that? We build a foundation. We build a foundation one step at a time. And that's what we're going to focus on because we truly want you to excel this year. And we want to get those systems and tools and put the CFO hat on as we continue down here. If you're interested in learning a little bit more, if you just want to have a little chat, I encourage you, please take the opportunity. Reach out, grab a spot on my calendar. I have opened up in the next couple of weeks. I think it's about 8 or 9 slots specific to chatting that we can go ahead and figure out what's the best choice for you. What options, what questions do you have? I would be glad to share some information with you. And I'd love to have that opportunity just to say, okay, what can we do? What makes sense? What direction can we go in? If you're not sure, let's have a quick conversation. Let's find out if there's a system in place that you already have at your fingertips that you can use in a more effective and streamlined manner to make it easier to track your numbers, to make it easier and more functional as the CFO of your business so that you can get that system in place to have the tracking necessary to get the reports that you need, whether it's your profit and loss, which is usually useful to know, just in case you're wondering. You need to know where things are going. But you also need to have a budget in place. There's also that, and it can be a little overwhelming. And that's what I'm really focusing on this year is helping folks to really take control and do CFO 101, which is my group coaching program. So there's different options out there. And by all means, there's many folks out there that can surround and support you. And I encourage you to reach out to those and see what we can do. Think about what I've talked about today and say, okay, whether it's pen and paper, whether it's a software, whether it's a spreadsheet, what is it? What do you have in place right now that will help you going forward in 2021? Get the financial foundation that you need to grow and scale your business, to get the foundation you need to increase your profits. Think about it. And then find the system and find the best system for you. And what is that system again? Very simply, it's the one you are going to use. If you'd like to have a quick chat, I would love to have you join me. Simply go to chatwithjanet.com, grab a spot on my calendar. There's a few spots out there opened up just for you guys. Grab them now. Let's have a conversation and see what is available to you that you can use. What software is already in your tool belt that you can take more advantage of and take absolute, some of that chaos of making sure that when tax time comes, it's a simple click of pushing a button and sending an email to your accountant. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm going to guess for most, absolutely. So I encourage you, reach out, go to chatwithjanet.com, book a little chat with me, and let's have a conversation and let's see what we can do because it is your time to excel. And there's so many possibilities that are out there. And I just want to encourage, inspire, and ignite those possibilities for you. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope that you got a little tip that you can go ahead and use forward going into, of course, this crazy 2021 as we've come off of the chaos of 2020 and step into growing and scaling your business right now. Thank you, everyone. Have an absolutely wonderful day, and it was great to see you. Take care.